Dear brothers and sisters, I am very happy and indeed sort of was a great honor to speak. I think many experienced sort of human being experience of troubled world. So great honor. So firstly, I speak something, then later I think some discussion, question and answer. So, 1956, I came this country on Buddha Jayanti celebration. I think before that, 1954, when I was in Peking, Pandit Nehru, great Indian Prime Minister, came, and first personal meeting there, a little bit strange, which impressed me very much. That is when as the other sort of dignitaries of different countries come, it is our duty, some of the leaders, whether it's the Chinese Congress or some other sort of officials, so we line, and then the foreign leaders come, and often when Pandit Nehru's case, and also Burmese UNO, and some Russian, at that time Khrushchev and Bulgarian, I had this experience of meeting or personal sort of seeing. So one, I think, banquet, we line up, they say, Indian Prime Minister is coming. So we stand quite seriously, not much smile. And then Joanne and Prime Minister Nehru came and introduced these dignitaries, the Chinese side. Then, at my case, Pandit Nehru introduced, this is Dalai Lama. The Pandit Nehru, such a sort of experienced person, but remained there few seconds motionless. Remember that. Then I immediately my hand used to go like that, and then Chuan also very clever, then introduce next person. So that time I felt, the person who knows about Tibet. So he actually met the main person of Tibet. He personally met, and I think within a few seconds, I think a lot of his historical or his past experience, I think, occurred. So that's my first impression. Something quite strange. Then, of course, 56, as I mentioned earlier, Buddha Jayanti celebration. I had several talks with Pandit Nehru and other leaders, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and also at that time the Raja Gopalachari, very old, but his mind very sharp. And then, of course, Jayaprakash Narayan and some other sort of leaders. So I got the deep respect, those freedom fighters, and fight according Gandhian principle, non-violence, and with such sort of determination. and fearlessly and selfishlessly, I really develop admiration. And then I return. Then after 59, then become refugee, political asylum. Government of India sort of help immense, particularly in the field of education. Then now last over 50 years, and also have the opportunity to visit different countries, and also listen mainly to BBC World Service. Then had much violence. Of course, nowadays is it terrorism, and these violence, endless violence. Of course, basically much safer now, but still violence going on here and there. And then also the violent conflict between Catholic and Protestant, and Shia and Sunni. When I noticed these things, then my admiration about India's 1,000-year-old tradition, ahimsa, really marvelous. Then also religious harmony. In this country, I think only the country where all major religious traditions live together, beside homegrown religion. A religion like Zoroastrian, a small community, but they happily carry their own faith. And then, of course, Christianity and Islam and Judaism. So all major religious traditions now here. Of course, a little problem here and there, that's understandable. But overall, I think still India, I think, kept religious harmony, I think, very alive. So when I saw the rest of the world, violence and too much hatred, and almost you see the people, you see the concept of compassion, forgiveness, these are something, signs of weakness, that kind of thing. And then the worst thing, you see, in the name of different religion, fighting. So then I realized now India's these two things, the ahimsa concept and religious harmony, these two things are now really very much relevant to today's world. So India, I think, have great potential to tell outside world or rest of the world, say we can live together with different faith on the basis of mutual respect, mutual admiration, and also conflict can solve through dialogue, through non-violent way. So I myself, wherever I go, I always talk these two things. The way the presentation about ahimsa, say, I consider ahimsa is mainly action. Action must be motivated by certain motivation. So any action motivated by compassion, to respect others' right, respect others' view, that's the basis of ahimsa. So I talk importance of love, compassion, and that automatically brings forgiveness, tolerance. So here I usually use not religious thing, but use our common sense, common experience, then latest scientific finding. More calm mind, compassion brings calm mind, because compassion brings inner strength, self-confidence. That creates calm mind. So it is very, very useful for even our health. So I usually make sort of the way of my presentation that way. So I also used to call that secular way. Compassion. Of course, all major religious tradition is an emphasis or carry the message of love and compassion. But compassion, love itself, not necessarily religious sort of practice, right? Religious message. It is something universal. If we touch a religion, then that will not be universal. Different religions, and also non-believers also there. So when we talk these things, a universal, a biological sort of basis, then it becomes universal, like that. So that's my number one sort of commitment to promotion these human values. And then second, promotion of religious harmony. All these two things I learned from India. So therefore, I describe you as my guru. Not only ancient time, but even today, your guru. Sometimes guru's own behavior not very well, but still, basically, guru. As we chela also sometimes a little bit stupid, but still we are chela of you, like that. So therefore, I describe myself as a messenger of India. The plus, as you mentioned already, I consider myself as son of India, like that. So it's true. The historical sort of basis and my personal sort of basis of personal experiences. This is reality. But our Chinese, the hardliners, brothers, sisters, in their ear is all these things they consider very splittist political statement. What to do? So now I want to appeal on, to request to you, these India's 1,000-year-old tradition. Now, not only just to preserve in your own country, but must show to rest of the world. Now there are methods. We can solve problem through talk, through dialogue, with mutual respect. And then also the religious harmony, very possible in India, in this country, 1,000 years go like that way. So therefore, I appeal to you, and also in recent years, whenever I met some Indian community, whether in New York, whether in Canada, and also I think some different country, when I met some Indian community, I told them, you settle in this country, now you should be active regarding promotion of ahimsa and the promotion of religious harmony. So firstly, in Asian community, Pakistani also there. So in mainland Pakistan and India, sometimes a little difficult relations, but Pakistanis, Indians in those areas, you should make closer relation, close understanding. And then among the Muslim, Shia and Sunni, make more effort, come closer. And then some other places, some problem due to these different religious tradition. You, Indian community, go this area and help them to solve this problem. I appealed. And also, you see, I really have the feeling, strong feeling. Wherever Chinese community, bigger community there, they always create Chinatown. No Indian town. Why? I think really, culturally, spiritually, you see, you have, I think, even greater potential. Create Indian town. And then that can be a zone of peace, zone of ahimsa. Isn't it? Like that. I think you should take more active role for promotion of these things, wherever Indian community live. And Indian diplomats also, I think, can, beside your sort of daily official duty, you can do these things. This I want to tell you, my request. Sometimes I used to describe we Tibetan, not only Chela of India, but also quite reliable Chela. So that means, last several centuries, Guru's own land, as far as Buddhism, and particularly non-linear tradition is concerned, much sort of ups and downs. So during this period, we Tibetan, your Chela, kept very faithfully, kept alive. So we prove we are quite reliable Chela. So from a Chela, quite reliable, so the reliable Chela now appealing to my Guru, please think these things and must realize your own values or traditional sort of values and potential. I think that's very important. Sometimes you need more meditation for self-confidence. That's important. I think Prime Minister, very rightly, mentioned when he was in Washington recently, China, economically, more advanced. India is behind. However, India, other values, democracy, rule of law, transparency, freedom of speech, freedom of media. I think he rightly mentioned these things. Seems to the world forgetting these things. I often was telling my friend, including Obama, I mentioned the world like G7 or G8 or G20, mainly economy. So just to emphasize importance of money. Other value, nobody mentioned. Freedom is the fundamental. With that, democracy, rule of law, these are very, very important. And as you already mentioned, in order to develop genuine friendship on the basis of mutual trust between India and China, the key thing is China should develop openness, open society, should be transparent. Then trust can develop. Remain closed society. Everything state secret. And how can develop genuine trust? Without trust, how can develop this genuine friendship? So in order to develop genuine friendship, first, both sides should create basis of trust. Then genuine friendship come. Friendship will not come on just nice wording sort of paper. No. With signature. No. Trust must come from here. Friendship must come from here. Nice word. Sometimes even if you create more suspicion. Like that. So that's one thing I want to tell you. So as Prime Minister mentioned, I think the free world, should, because of that, reminds not only just money important, but like India and some other country, the poverty is immense sort of what's the problem. We have to sort of eliminate because of poverty. Otherwise, human right or these things, then sometimes automatically become difficult. So therefore, remove poverty is very essential. But at the same time, the other values are fundamentally human values. Without individual freedom, you cannot utilize human individual creativity. Without that, the society cannot develop. Centralized authority. I think Chinese case, I'm not criticizing out of some sort of political motivation. No. Simply, over 1 billion human beings there, they have every right to know the reality And Chinese people also have the ability to judge what is right, what is wrong. So there's no basis to carry censorship. Censorship, Chinese government, cannot carry censorship rest of the world. Therefore, censorship only their own people. So it is immoral to put ignorance, their own people, fool their own people by their government. It's very sad, very sad. So therefore, I think outside world, free world, I think must emphasize importance these fundamental values. That I think very, very important. So that's, I think, your potential to help world, more peaceful world, more harmonious world. This is one thing. Then about Tibet, usually when I sort of discuss or explain about Tibet problem, there are several aspects Tibetan issue. Of course, human right issue, religious freedom, this also is a part of one aspect of Tibetan issue. Another issue is environment issue. Tibet, according to some expert, you see, the rate of global warming and global level, 0.1. Tibetan plateau, 0.3. They mention of that. So the Tibetan plateau area, the melting, the glacier and snow, these are quite rapidly. In my own lifetime, I noticed, see, when I was in Tibet, some elder people used to say to me, oh, when they are young, some of these mountains, a lot of snow. Now they say, because of that, much less snow. These people used to consider that's a bad omen. They do not know global warming, these things. So even if some Tibetan, very seriously, he told me, because flower from India, some seed of new flower come from India, so that brings heat. Silly. The British, originally is a British sort of consular or trade mission, then later is the government of India's trade mission. There annually is new flowers, including tulips, hyacinth, or all these daffodil, all these new flowers come. So some Tibetans say, oh, now we call the heat of plain. That's it. Heat of plain. So heat of plain come with this new seed of flower. Like that. So quite silly. So in any way, is it the global, the Tibetan sort of plateau, the warming very rapidly. So all major rivers which cover almost whole Asia, from China up to Pakistan, these rivers, ultimate source come from Tibetan plateau. So these rivers, I think over billion human beings' life depend on these rivers. So therefore, taking special care about Tibetan ecology is not only just 6 million Tibetans' sort of interest, but also the over billion human beings' sort of concern. This is very important. And this is non-political. It's something important for everybody. So China also, you see, I think the Chinese government also, you see, need some sort of, more research work. These are, I think, India, just the next sort of neighbor. So the Ganges, Brahmaputra and some other river. Directly, linked with Tibet. So I think India have this sort of right to express your concern about ecology of Tibetan plateau. Then some Indian expert, they say, because Tibetan area were high altitude and also dry climate, so once some damage environment case, some damage done, the natural sort of recover take longer period. So therefore, it need special pay attention. So I hope you see the people like you, I think from time to time, you see they express your concern, and eventually, if possible, some expert. In many cases, I asked some parliamentarian in Europe, in Australia, in America, I asked them, some expert about ecology, organize and with Chinese expert jointly go these remote area in Tibetan plateau and thoroughly study what necessary for protection of these environment and how much already damage. These thorough research. This Chinese, it's also interest of the Chinese government. These are not political. This is something part of global warming issue like that. This is one thing I want to say. I think finished. That's all. So now some questions now.
The floor is now open for any questions or observations. Please make them as brief as possible. Ambassador Venus.
Thank you, Your Wilderness, for an absolutely wonderful place. Deeply touched. I think your wonderful reference to India as a guru and your very gentle reminder to India as a guru that because we have forgotten our traditional values, so we are not able to play the role that we should. Your reference to Mahatma Gandhi and his non-violence is absolutely beautiful. In this connection, I have one question. Mahatma Gandhi, one of the greatest reasons for his success, certainly non-violence, but in addition to that, drawing in the women of India into the freedom struggle. That was a great source of his success. When the leaders of the freedom struggle were imprisoned, the women came forward. My question to you, Your Holiness, is about the women of Tibet. What is the role that the women of Tibet are playing today? I have been quite worried to see some reports that in Tibet not only are a lot of non-Tibetans being settled, but also a lot of intermarriage, so that the newer generation is not really aware of Tibetan values. I think the women of Tibet have been very strong. Buddhist nuns in Tibet have played a very strong role historically. Are those traditions being preserved? Are they being lost? What do you say? What role can the women of Tibet play in the cause so dear to your heart? Thank you.
Very good one. Very good. I think the situation inside Tibet, not only just the women, but entire Tibetan people facing the difficulties. But suppose you see, the communists, they usually say they're also liberator of women's right, but in real sense, not much. But basically, education is the key factor, and including Buddhist study. So what we made some contribution regarding females' right in India, those Tibetan Buddhist nunnery, traditionally no serious study which monks do. So that, I think, since 40 years ago, we introduced in those memory, the study must be equally. So that, I believe, one of our sort of practical contribution. The nuns and the monks, as far as the knowledge about Buddhism is concerned, now becoming more equal. So that's, I think, one positive sort of contribution by that. Then also in Tibetan, the exile, usually sometimes we call exile parliament, and also our organization, we pay special attention to bring more female. That we do, that we can. And in free country we can do, so we already implemented these things. Then with this question, I have this one general sort of view or opinion. In human history, early part of human history, no concept of leadership. All community work together, and whatever they get, they share together. Eventually, some mischievous people come, so the concept of leadership. At that time, no rule of education. So therefore, in order to become leader, the physical strength is the main factor. So therefore, male dominant sort of habit. Then eventually, education developed. So education then bring more equal, male and female. But still some old church is still there. And then, now, we are 21st century. Generally speaking, education, I think everywhere people pay much attention, sufficient attention about the importance of education. And also I think education year by year is improving. But the modern education simply taking care about brain development, not warm-heartedness. I think it is understandable when in the European continent the separate education institutions started. At that time, the moral ethics, these part, the church take the responsibility, and also family to some extent. Now eventually, influence of the church reduce, and family values also sometimes difficult. So then, now nobody take care, special care about these moral ethics. So now education institution alone should take care both brain development and warm-heart development. So now, recent years, in America and Canada and also Japan, it seems to see more and more people, including businessmen also, businessmen and women also, you see, showing interest about the importance of warm-heartedness or compassionate attitude. Meantime, many of them not much interested about religion. So, as I mentioned earlier, we need a secular way to promote, to educate the importance of these things. So there are women, now my own case, my mother, very, very kind, very, very kind. So I always telling people, and I believe, certain amount of my compassion, firstly, experience come from my mother, not my tutor. So tutor sometimes brings more fear. I often mentioning, so when I getting lesson at very, very early age, that my tutor always kept one whip. That whip, at that time, you see, my brother and myself, two monks, quite stupid, I think. two monk students, you see, studied together. So my tutor kept two whips, one ordinary whip one yellow whip. So yellow whip is supposed to holy Dalai Lama. But then I think I have quite enough sort of intelligence. If yellow whip, holy whip use, I don't think any holy pain, just that pain. So therefore, I realized, oh, if my tutor really use that, I will suffer. Therefore, out of fear, I studied these things. So in any way, so later, of course, Buddhist sort of Buddhist teaching, and also those Nalendra great masters of teaching really helped me a lot to improve these basic human quality, which essentially learned from my mother. So, biologically, female have more sensitivity about others' pain. I think most of the heroes, war hero, actually murderer, isn't it? Most of the heroes are male. So therefore, female, because of the biological factor, more potential, there was a feeling of sense of concern for others' pain. So, in the society, at the time, now, in the education field, now ordinary education is not adequate regarding the compassion of these things. So, now time comes, we must make special effort for promotion of human affection, human compassion. In that respect, women, female, have special role. So therefore, in many places in Europe or in America, I often use Delhi or India also, in Delhi or some other places also, I mentioned now female must take more active role in the society, promotion of these deeper values. So that I want to tell you.
And there's some.
His Holiness, this frequent references to ahimsa and non-violence as one of the core values of India, it sometimes confuses me. Why? Because if we look at our own mythology, when in Mahabharata, Lord Krishna exhorted Arjuna to take up arms and fight against the Kauravas. Lord Rama had to attack and destroy Ravana. Durga had to take up arms to destroy Mahishasura. Now, in the present context, dealing with the Taliban, dealing with the terrorists, violence is not going to work. You have to, dealing with the terrorists and the Taliban, non-violence is not going to work, and you have to have Shakti, you have to use force, or if you want, you have to use violence.
Thank you.
President Bush, I love him. Very nice person, as a person. Very nice person. So from first meeting, we immediately developed genuine friendship because he's very much open, no formality. Very good one. But his policy, some of his policy, I think, disaster. So in fact, one time I mentioned to him, I love you, but some of your policy is concerned, I have greater reservation. I told him. He remained silent like that. So in any way, I think Bush, I think maybe you should follow Durga or these things. But now look what result. The violence only controls physical, not mind. More hurt on physical, increasing hurt, hate, anger. One person killed, at least his relative or his or her relative, 5, 10 there. So one physical eliminate, but 10 more physical ready to follow that way. So when the September 11th sort of event happened, I expressed, actually the 11th it happened. At 12th, I wrote a letter to President Bush because I know very well him. So I expressed, beside my condolence, but also I mentioned, I hope the countermeasure for this kind of tragedy, hopefully more non-violent way. So at that time, you see, I responded to some sort of questioners. If you handle this problem not properly, not non-violent way, then today 1 Bin Laden, after some time 10 Bin Laden, or 100 Bin Laden, 1000 Bin Laden, could be. So that's the result of, that's the very nature of violence. I think in human history, violence, I think very few cases, final satisfactory solution through violence, I think very few. Only thing is talk. So it doesn't matter what is this, your ancient sort of story, half may be true, half may not true. But doesn't matter, these are past. Now we are 21st century. We have to think entire 6 billion human beings just like one human family. India's future depends on your neighbor. For example, Pakistan's future depends on India. That's the reality. Now, Asia's economy depends on Europe. European economy depends on Asia or Arab or Africa, like that. It's heavily interdependent. And on top of that, the ecology problem. No single nation can solve that. We must take sort of common responsibility, like that. So that's a new reality. So you see, since 73, I always talk the sense of global responsibility. Now that's, according to today's reality, we need that. So under that circumstances, constant war is outdated. Destruction of your neighbor is destruction of yourself. So therefore, I totally against violence. So warfare is outdated. So these terrorists, ultimately, I think other reasons also there, but I think one reason, because of violent sort of method, so the reaction becomes worse. Now look, Afghanistan or Pakistan now, even now Pakistan, when they carry some sort of forceful method, hopefully, with hope to eliminate these people. How can eliminate? And particularly this terrorist, invisible target, very difficult. Aiming one person, affect 1,000 people. So more resentment, more hatred. Then these 1,000 people may grow sympathy to these individuals. Very difficult. So I always believe, and also telling people, concept of war, part of human history, but today's reality is outdated. So we need, I usually call, 20th century becomes century of violence, century of bloodshed. Now this 21st century should be century of dialogue. And through that way, firstly, I usually call inner disarmament. Try to promote compassion, forgiveness, these things. That's internal disarmament. That must follow external disarmament. Now, I think President Obama and also the Russian leaders, now they are really seriously engaging elimination of nuclear weapons. These are, I think, very, very good signs. So that's my view.
Yes, yeah, please.
Government of Tibet and the people of Tibet have been holding program under which you have been expressing your thanks to the government and people of India. I would like to also take this occasion to thank you and the government of Tibet and the people of Tibet in many ways for bringing the legacy, the Buddhist legacy especially to India, whereby I think people especially of the sub-Himalayas, people like myself, Uncle Darjeeling, where we have been able to not only identify with the great legacy, the Buddhist legacy of Tibet, but also find an identity and a voice within the Indian itself. For this, I think both the people of India and the Indian government also owe a very big thank to you and to your government. My question, sir, is very specific. As I mentioned, being from Darjeeling, where nationalism started. If you had a message for the national problem, the nationalism problem that we face in India today, what would be your message and your remedy for the situation?
Yes, I think Allahabad or something.
Excuse me.
I think Odisha also. I think you see some people ask me any sort of message or any sort of comment about Naxalite. Then I express some of their grievance. See, maybe also there are certain reasons, but you see, so therefore they must fight for their right. But method should be non-violent way. Then their goal can achieve. Using violence, even their goal is just goal, but then because the method to violence, so the right goal also sometimes spoiled. I think a very clear example, the President Bush sort of, I think the military involvement in Iraq, goal is good, bring democracy, and motivation is good, but method, violence, wrong method. So unexpected consequences just happen. So I also mentioned at that time to respond to some media people when they asked about Naxalite, like that. So then I feel. So I think better to meet them, listen, and sometimes I think the tribe area economically still backward. Education also is difficult. So you see, I think wider contact with these people and give them hope, give them self-confidence, and give them some kind of personality, part of big family. Then I think these and the frustration will reduce. Otherwise, so long frustration there easily can be violence. And some wicked people then can manipulate easily. So that's my feeling. So all these non-violent, compassionate way, respect their right, listen their sort of complaints well. That's I think very, very important.
Yeah. Sorry.
I also agree that democracy, harmony, and environment and human rights, they are together. We cannot separate them.
Yes.
So my question is the Tibetan community living in India being prepared for being educated about ecology and environment? The second question is, I lived in Beijing for 6 years. I was working there, and I made many friends there, and I noticed that they could not talk. So there are many good people in China. They cannot talk. They cannot express themselves.
And how can judge without talk? How can judge they are good people? How can?
Do you believe that there is any hope?
Yes, of course, I agree. Yes, I agree. Yes. Oh, so second part of your question? Yes. Sorry. Sorry. Ecology. We have some program, the education about environment. We always try, and also planting trees as much as we can. And also we appear, and what Bahuna, you see, ecologist. So one time he gave me one responsibility. Whenever I go the Himalayan range, I must raise the importance of ecology and the preservation of Himalayan trees. So I carry sincerely his instruction wherever I go. So people, I think, getting this better awareness importance of ecology. That's come. But then, if you come to Dharamsala, I think a small town and a Tibetan community, I think made a lot of contribution for dirtiness. so no ecological sort of contribution. Instead, I think opposite. And then your second part, your comment, we always make distinction. Chinese communist and within the communist, hardliner and more reasonable communist or genuine communist. I think today's Chinese hardliner communist, I don't think genuine communist. They are capitalist communist. Their only concern is power and money. That's all. I think as far as communist ideology is concerned, I'm more communist than these Chinese leaders. I feel like that. I very much sort of admire Marxism. So in fact, when I was in Peking, 1954, 55, I asked some concerned Chinese official, I want to join Chinese Communist Party. So still, whenever I occasionally, when this topic is come, I introduce myself as a half Marxist. So one occasion in America, when I mentioned I'm half Marxist, or as far as because of the socio-economy theory is concerned, I'm Marxist. So one American lady approached me, you don't say that, Marxism is very bad. Oh, she scolded me. So later I understand, I understood that lady come from, I think, Hungary or something. So it is understandable. Then one occasion in Chile, I mentioned, he said, I'm Marxist. So he said, they did that. So I always, and like Italian communist, Marxist, I also make distinction. Marxism and Leninism different. Leninism, now I think real original Marxism is spoiled due to power. So the ruthlessness there. I think real original Marxism, I think, in the principle of democracy, collective leadership, like that. So so therefore, Chinese people is concerned, we always admire, we always respect. Even before Tiananmen event, I asked a Tibetan in America and different places, you must extend your hand to Chinese brothers sisters whenever you met. And before till Tiananmen event happened, the Chinese side very reluctant.
Thank you.
One
more question.
Oh, okay. Still, when I open my mouth, not like Chinese, you see, always talk like that. So therefore, after Tiananmen, the response from the Chinese community side, students, much more open, and particularly 2008 crisis in entire Tibet. Now many Chinese now openly, you see, reach out to us, and we also extend like that. So Chinese people really very nice people, cultured people. Sometimes I jokingly telling, as far as hard working is concerned, I think Chinese people are more hard working than Indian. Sometimes Indian, because of heat, I think really a little bit lazy. And what we call so complaints are so even if something produced here, you can make very good quality, but sometimes not very good quality, not like Japanese product, all polishing or something very nice. But the Indian product, sometimes it works, but not that sort of good quality. Is it? Do you agree?
Will you take one or two?
Yes, one more
One
question.
more question. Last question, and sorry, we're running out of time. Yeah.
His Holiness Dalai Lama.
You are media. You are media people?
Media?
From the media.
Oh, okay. This is not press meeting, no?
No.
Software engineer.
Hmm.
So my question is, as we all know that India is the only country which has never been an initiator in
Correct.
attacking any other country or community, right? So what if our neighboring countries or external powers provoking us by terrorism and many other anti-social activities? Should we remain calm, peaceful, which India has been doing in the long past history?
I think His Holiness already answered. I think you've already answered that. Maybe Balanand, would you like to, you wanted to ask something? Last question.
I think basically India, I think the last more than 60 years, I think most stable, peaceful nation. Compare Pakistan, or Bangladesh, or Burma, a country which once under British colonial rule, same, I think same English education, these things. But India, I think very, very peaceful country. So I always feel, if it's a partition, the 47 partition did not take place, then I think Pakistan side, I think much more peaceful. There's no question. I feel like that. So partition is really, unfortunate. And that is the seed of Kashmir problem and also today's Pakistan problem, I think. So this reminds me, once Binu Babaji expressed, I think in early 50s maybe, see, he, an idea, ABC. A means Afghanistan, B, Burma, C, Ceylon, Sri Lanka, then India, Pakistan, all some kind of the form of federation. I think these are really long-sighted sort of vision. So if such things materialize, then today I think Afghanistan, I think must be, I think more peaceful. I feel that.
I think we can take one more question.
Yes, last question.
Last
no?
question, yeah, please. Quick.
Your Holiness, I have the privilege to pay my respects to you in the most peaceful part of the planet, that is in New Zealand. Your Holiness, you had during that meeting described to me how the piece of apple which you took during flight from Sydney to Wellington had caused some stomach pain. Your tenderness had simply relieved all my pains, but my question pertains to the pain of the civilization of India. In Vivekananda International Foundation, I would like to quote Vivekananda, who said, "The destiny of India was sealed the day the rigid caste system was invented in India." Any message for those people who tried even to embrace Buddhism as guided by Ambedkar? And Your Holiness, all men of spiritual eminence are more active in their dreams. Could you share your recent dreams with us? Thank you.
I think
So
basically
what was
the caste system.
I think so sometimes people, I think, very necessary, some of your traditional sort of habit or cultures or tradition, you say, must change according to the new reality. So I think since you see, India's constitution, democratic constitution is started, although the constitution gives equality to all people, but sometimes the old tradition, the caste system, these things, and also what called dowry, and some you see widow, you see, not allowed to remarry these things. So these are part of your tradition, but I think, frankly speaking, outdated tradition. So must change. Change not by force, but through education, through awareness. And this respect, I feel that recent years, I expressing the India's spiritual leaders, like these Shankaracharyas or these great leaders, and some leaders are really fully involved about education and mixing with the public. And I noticed in Mysore, and also I think Maharashtra. No, not Maharashtra. I think Gujarat. I have been. These religious leader is really carrying a lot of social work and very close touch with the public. So the spiritual leaders, including Shankaracharya, one occasion in Delhi many years ago. Who was that Shankaracharya? I don't know, but one sort of meeting with Shankaracharya there, and I also there. That Shankaracharya on high seat is remain like a statue. No speak. Oh, I think through that way he may have the power to bring some blessing. That I skeptical. Blessing must come from within, with awareness, with conviction, not from external. As a Buddhist, I'm skeptical. So therefore, so one time from Bombay, one family, he came to see me, the Dhamsara, and seeking some blessing. And I told them, I have nothing to bless to you. The real blessing in your hand. That means you are a wealthy family, so some portion of your wealth spent for those street people, and slum people in Bombay area. So provide them some education facility, some sort of training program, some health program. That's the real way to get blessing. I mentioned that. So in any way, so these religious leaders, I think, should come mixed with people and tradition, 1,000-year-old spirituality must make relevant day-to-day life. I think that's very important. I think time passed, because of the time gone, just to carry some ritual. I do that. So at one time, Mao Zedong described me, your mind is very scientific. So it seems it's quite, I think, quite true. So some of the Buddhist sort of concept, according to some Buddhist literature, very unscientific, I already rejected publicly. So we have to follow. We have to accept the reality through investigation, through experiment. So Buddha himself made it very clear, my follower should not accept my teaching out of devotion or faith, but rather through investigation, through experiment. So that's very scientific statement. So we have the liberty to investigate even Buddha's own word. Like that. So I think, I really feel, very strongly feel, now India's spiritual leaders now must be active, must take active role, promotion of these things, and make relevant masses' day-to-day life, and cast these things. I think the spiritual leader spoke forcefully that as a form of supporting India's democratic constitution. I think it can be not overnight change, but can make great contribution, isn't it? Just leaders, some politicians, speak. Sometimes there's limitation. This is both sides, the politics or leaders and also the spiritual leaders. Suppose they are the person who have the responsibility to keep this tradition. So they themselves spoke openly, realistically, actively, I think very important. Then the change will be faster. I think one time, Pandit Nehru, after 62 conflict, he mentioned India like elephant. It takes time to stand up. One stand, very forceful. So he mentioned that. I think they say India's progress sometimes too slow, like elephant. It's very slowly stand up. So we need some noise, elephant to stand up. If necessary, little fire. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll just have a last few remarks.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Wonderful.